we are beginning this hour with I'm thanking President Trump, the Colorado terror attack suspect. This is how you stop these nuts. His wife and 5 children have been detained by ICE. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But also, big news in the world of sports.
Could take a foul. Here comes Tatum. Tatum will dance and feed. Ball deflected. Picked up Brown. Brown a three.
Oh, yeah.
He fired.
That's a bad foul there. He was in the...
And if you are a fan of the New York Knicks, which I think the entire city of New York is, and this region, the New York Knicks have fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau, after the playoff ouster in a stunning shakeup. This story is developing, but the Knicks have fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau, and a shocking move to begin their offseason. Now, this comes on the heels of the Knicks making remarkable progress, making the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. A series they lost to the Indiana Pacers in 6 games. But again, the New York Knicks have fired their head coach. Dominic Carter here with you. We have a lot to get to this hour. We're going to focus to continue to look at a New York City-funded babysitter, Lakeisha Jackson, caught on camera beating 3 children with a belt. Horrible audio you'll hear. We played it early this morning. But let's go back to our very top story. The Colorado terror attack suspect, his wife, 5 children detained by ICE. That's how you stop these nuts from doing what they're doing. The wife and all 5 children of the Colorado terrorist suspect Mohammed Solomon have been arrested by federal immigration agents. So Solomon, 45 years old, an Egyptian national, accused of injuring 12 people with a homemade flamethrower and Molotov cocktails during that anti-Semitic attack in Boulder, was living in the U.S. illegally after his legal status expired on March 28th. So, yes, do I feel a little bit for the innocent wives and kids, the innocent wife and kids? Yes. But he's the one that put them in this situation, not the U.S. government. He's the one that decided to go to Boulder and do what he did to those senior citizens there for a weekly march in solidarity with Israel and with hostages. And this is the right thing to do. You round up the wife, you round up the kids, you round up grandma, you take the entire family, grandpa, and out you've got to go. Or at least you have them in custody. So while he's sitting there behind bars on a $10 million bond, think about that. Think about what your actions have done. 800-848-9222. Another story that we're following in the race for New York City mayor, which is now about, 3 weeks away, give or take a little more than 3 weeks. Cuomo, the front runner, is flip-flopping when it comes to congestion pricing. He was against it. Now he supports it. Cuomo supports congestion pricing, and that's something that doesn't sit well with the people of New York City. And he's also regretting his decision to resign, trashing Hochul's time in office. So you know anything about politics, you know that governors and their lieutenant governors, they normally hate each other's guts. And you put a lieutenant governor on the ticket, you make sure that they're not a rising star, that they're under you, and they bring a certain region of the state, you bring the other part. It's to balance out a ticket. So Cuomo put Hochul on his ticket. He said that before he resigned that he was going to dump her. He was going to drop her from his ticket. But look how fate turned out. He ran into his problems, and she ended up winning her own term outright as the governor of the state of New York. But it's fair to say they don't like each other. So a regretful Cuomo says he wouldn't have resigned as governor if he could do it all over again, and he's throwing shade at his successor, Hochul, her record. Wide-ranging interview with the New York Times, and he is dismissing concerns that at the time that his sexual harassment scandal in 2021 would cripple state government if he stayed in office. He says if he had to do it again, he wouldn't have resigned. At the time, he thought he would be a distraction to government functioning that would be involved with all the impeachment proceedings, blah, blah, blah. Cuomo says, looking back, what has really been done in the last 4 years anyway, right? So Cuomo still the front runner as we are about 3.5 weeks away. So you have Cuomo at the top of the ticket for the Democrats, a socialist in the number 2 spot. You can't make this up. So pick your poison on the Democratic side. Also, what we're following here, a city-funded babysitter story we did this morning, caught on camera in New York City, beating 3 children with a belt.
Had to sit up there and had to do this early in the day, good morning. So guess what's about to happen? You're right, I warned y'all. Drop him. Drop him. Drop your pants. No. I didn't tell you that, so why you crying? Come on. You ain't gotta take your shoes off. You ain't gotta take your shoes off, honey. You know, they gonna look with a hat. I have more sense to you, but you can see somebody like, let's go. Meet across.
Now, before you call condemning the mother in this situation, understand that the babysitter, 24-year-old Lakeisha Jackson, had been hired via a contractor for the city's administration for children's services that provides, keyword here, struggling families with babysitters to help with caretaking. And so it was the grandmother. And so the mother is a single mom. She's trying to make it. I'm going to cut her some slack on this situation. We'll see what you folks have to say. Single mom trying to do the right thing. And it was the grandmother that looked at the home surveillance camera in the bedroom and was horrified to learn that the babysitter was beating the children, boys ages 2, 4, and 6. And according to the family, they're now suing. According to the family, it's been several weeks and the woman has not been arrested as of yet. So I'm looking at my Twitter, at my X, and also my Facebook and emails. And Dara Collins, Dara sent me an email that says this: "Hello, Dominic. Horrifying situation. That family will never have to hire another babysitter again once their lawsuit is settled. I hope the city of New York NYPD pays out at least $1 million per child and the babysitter lands in jail." That's from Dara Collins via email. And so apparently there are as many as 60 beatings, spankings of the children by this 24-year-old babysitter. And again, her name, where is it? I just had my notes here. Her name, it escapes me. Wait, her name is Lakeisha Jackson. I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to say a word about her first name. I'm going to leave it to you folks. Her name is Lakeisha Jackson. I've done past segments about these names, but, you know, I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to leave. Why are you guys in the control room laughing? Why are you laughing? Why? Can you guys wait? Don't get shy now. Why are you guys laughing?
I don't know. I mean, it's like what's the writing on the wall is the expression, if I'm correct.
You're correct. And so
why does it have to happen, to that part of the, I don't know. Because the other day you were talking about the store where all these women were just like shaking their booties and
right.
There's nothing of a side that you want to see.
I like that, Carlos.
And it happened.
They were shaking their what?
And it happened to be of the same.
They were shaking their booties.
It's the same story all over and over again. I don't know what can be done
Right,
at this
right,
point.
right. I'm just pointing out that her name is Lakeisha. Philippe, why are you laughing?
I think you've used Lakeisha like directly as a name before in one of these. That's why I think it's funny.
Yeah,
I think you've used that exact one before.
Yeah, I have. But I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm wrong and blah 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 and blah blah blah. To your telephone calls, I want to begin with Gracie in Rockland County. Gracie, what's on your mind?
Hi, I'll do it quick. Number one, I want to know about this guy in Colorado. He's 45. How long has he been here? Why did he come? Where were these 5 kids born? What kind of a job does he have? Or is the whole 7 of them on welfare? That's number one. Number two, I was at the Harvard graduation last week. The whole bunch, I had a good time because my granddaughter graduated. But those people, every speech was a dig against Trump and the country, as if Trump, everything that the Democrats and Biden did these 4 years, they pinned on Trump, that we're losing the Constitution, we're losing the government. I mean, I'm making it fast because I have a lot to say, but are you following me, Dom?
I'm following you. Hey, Gracie, what do you make of of ICE picking up this suspect's wife and 5 kids?
Oh, yes, and put them on. I still want those questions answered. All right? This is BS. And I don't care. The whole tribe should go. Okay? Everybody who is illegal and has no right to be here should go. If you would hear these people during the Harvard speeches talk, you think all these foreigners, I'm going to use are not illegals and not criminals. I don't care whether they're criminals. If they're illegal, they broke the law. And you know what else they said? I mean, there were a lot of speeches. My head was spinning. We need the Harvard students, even though they're about 30% of the population, because P.S. our kids are stupid. We can't. They should come. We need them to get the good jobs. And then we also need them to take the low-class jobs, you know what I mean? So we're going to have another caste system with the very rich and the very poor, and then there'll be nobody in the middle. So in other words, my son and my went to Harvard also, and we're no Kennedys, but he was a smart boy, and he went and he achieved. You know what I'm getting at, Dominic?
I hear you, Gracie. I hear you. What did he major in? It's a son that graduated?
Well, my son graduated in 1996. He was a lawyer. He graduated undergrad, and then he went to 3 years of Harvard Law School. Now, his first daughter just graduated from Harvard. She's smart, too.
Wow.
And she's going to go to medical school. And
wow.
The second daughter just finished the second year. And he married a Harvard girl that's also a lawyer.
Wow.
But what I'm getting, and then also one of the speakers criticized that America and Trump doesn't want foreigners. That we have.
I hear you, Gracie. I hear you. But I'm a minute late for a break, so I have to step in. Thank you for the wonderful call, Gracie. It is time for a break. We are coming right back. And back to the telephones we go. Line 5, Mary in New Jersey. Mary, what's on your mind?
Now, Dominic, I am absolutely in tears over this both situations, but this babysitter that would beat these children. I have 2 children of my own, obviously grown up, probably from the sound of my voice. My son and my daughter are 20 years apart. My daughter was a foster baby in my home. I was a single person.
Bless your heart, Mary. Thank you for doing that.
No, she's done so much for me. She's at NYU. She's an amazing, amazing girl. And I cannot believe those babies hearing that. I thought, if I hear this again, I can't listen to it. It's so heartbreaking to hear children in such fear. And the other ones obviously aren't saying anything because they're so scared. How come this girl has not been picked up, this babysitter? And how come the mother does not see some type of signs that this woman is doing this to these children, and why would she not be looking at the cameras?
Well, Mary, first of all, full disclosure. As a toddler, I was in the notorious New York City foster care system. So, when you tell me just now about your daughter, who was in a similar situation, you adopted her, I take it?
I did.
Okay.
I actually started fostering her at 9 days old. She was a newborn.
Wow. And now she's at NYU, correct?
She's almost finished at NYU. She's amazing.
That's wonderful. Mary, I'm not going to demonize this mother. She's a single. I don't know what's going on. Let me backtrack. Single mother in a program for parents like herself. But what happened to her sons, 2, 4, and 6, to be honest with you, is why I don't trust anybody when it comes to taking care of children. I could tell you of countless arguments or discussions that I had when I went home and found out my kids were at somebody else's house. And my first question was, how do you know? And I know my wife used to get annoyed at me asking this, but there's a reason and a method to the madness. How do you know these people? What do you know about the father? What do you know about the mother? And nowadays, not just men are doing this in terms of child abuse and child sexual abuse. It's women that are doing it now too as well. And so I'm going to give you the final word in just 1 second, Mary. But uncles, coaches, I don't care who you are. You get the second eye from me. My kids, fortunately, are grown. Mary, you have the final word. Go ahead.
No, I'm. First of all, I just want to say I've always been taken by your story, and everybody that works at the station. Everyone's amazing. I love Curtis. He's my favorite, and you. But it's just I'm like shaking from hearing that. And I know children are going through this that people don't know. And
right.
It's just so heartbreaking.
And it is, Mary. Thank you. And please don't cry. Thank you. We're coming right back. And we are back. In a few minutes, we'll be returning to your live telephone calls. But first, I want to welcome former Congressman Peter King. Congressman, how are you, your family, your wife? How's everyone doing?
Tell you, Dominic, all of us are doing great, so thank you very much. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. So, Congressman, I love chatting with you because you're my rock, my reasonable rock on any issues. And I'm still in shock that, one, the New York Knicks, they fired their head coach after they just...
I was thinking that. How crazy can they get? The Knicks did nothing for 20 years. Thibodeau comes in, he gets them into the second round, and the third round. People would have given their right arm for that before the season began.
Yes,
that you're going to beat the Celtics and you're going to make it to the finals of the conference. My God, that's crazy. Wow.
It says to me that some of the superstars on the team didn't like him and they wanted him gone. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it says to me. But to me, it makes no sense at all.
None whatsoever. And actually, what you're saying makes the most sense of all. In today's world of pampered athletes,
yes,
where the coaches are afraid to yell at the guy, you can't hurt his feelings. Everyone's a superstar. And, I'm just thinking of the days of Vince Lombardi or Gil Hodges.
Right.
Wow,
those days are gone. Those days are gone. I mean, they're completely gone.
Red Auerbach in the NBA. Yeah, wow, okay.
Can you imagine him, Red Auerbach, in 2025, up in Boston in 2025? I don't see it happening.
Wow. Boy.
Well, a few things I want to ask you about, Congressman. Yeah. So, and you just did a posting, a writing about Ukraine. I'll come to that in a moment. Yeah. But let's start with, because I really believe this is a step in the right direction. I want you to comment on Boulder, Colorado, what happened there.
Yeah.
And the headline as of right now, the terror suspects' wife and 5 children have been detained by ICE. If you want to get through to these nuts, that's how you start the process to do it. What do you say, Congressman King?
I agree. Absolutely. It's long overdue. Listen, I think sometimes these things happen, some feelings are hurt. Sometimes good people may be caught in the middle of this. but that's the risk you're going to take. If you're going to bring somebody into the country illegally, and you're going to stay here illegally, I should say, and then also you yourself are going to carry out murderous acts, attempted murder, terrorist acts, hate crimes, then, listen, you can't have it both ways. So, no, I think it sends a good signal to others who think they can somehow game the system, come in here, they get caught, they can sing around for years appealing it and claiming sanctuary status and refugee status. And by the time they get to their case, they're here 10 or 15 years anyway. So they're ahead of the game. No, I think this is the thing that has to be done. And again, sometimes they used to say when I was in law school that the hard cases make bad law. So listen, the hard case here is you have to do the right thing. It may hurt some people's feelings. There could be some somewhat innocent people caught up in it, but that's the price you have to pay.
Congressman King, obviously you can't explain these loan job nut jobs, but how does something like this happen? Innocent people, mostly elderly, a weekly walk in support of Israeli hostages and their families. And this guy comes along with Molotov cocktails and so on. How does something like this happen?
In some ways, I guess there's no definite answer, but I tell you, my best guess or my best estimate is that the climate that's been created, where somehow it's considered to be a certain equivalency between Israel and Hamas, Israel and Hezbollah, Israel and terrorist attacks. It's these two sides, one equal to the other. No, it's like saying that Franklin Roosevelt and Hitler were equal. This is insane. Abraham Lincoln and the Confederacy were equal. The fact is that this is a case of good and bad, and not just good and bad, but also an ally of ours, a close friend of ours, and who has tried everything to bring about peace, and instead, the more they do it, the more they get attacked. So, no, there's absolutely no justification for, and not just what he did, even more so is the professors, the students, the people in the media, the people in politics who say, oh, there's two sides to this, and it's time for Israel to let up. It's easy to say when you're in Park Avenue or you're on some university campus that's protected by all sorts of security to tell the Israelis that they should ease up on a terrorist force that wants to destroy them and kill them at every moment. If anyone wants to know what Hamas would do if it had the upper hand, just look at October 7th. That was absolute brutality. That wasn't a military operation where there's collateral damage of civilians. That was intended to attack and destroy civilians.
Congressman King, we have the Columbias of the world, University, the Harvards of the world, up in Ithaca, we have the Cornells of the world. I know that people have a First Amendment right, but these nuts are sitting on the side, and they see these protests happening, and it seems to me the colleges have a responsibility to shut it down. How do we get to that point? It seems like they're willing to do anything but shut them down.
Actually, Dominic, you finished the point I was trying to make. Yeah, and thanks for rescuing me there. Yeah, as bad as these academics and students and politicians and media people are, etc. Then you have the psychos, the crazies that are out there who see somehow they get encouraged by this. They feel if it's going on out there, they can get on national television, international television. They can be celebrities. And this crazy instinct they have, which may have just stayed down the basement for years, now they get a chance to express themselves. They get inspired by this hatred and brutality they see. No, there are consequences to actions. And while we have free speech, you have to be aware of what you're saying, especially if it's hate speech. If there's any reasonable chance it's going to bring about violence, you should shut up and keep your mouth shut and try to argue it more intelligently. But if you're calling the Israelis mass murderers, if you're saying they're guilty of genocide, then that would almost justify what this maniac did. Because he hears this, my God, all these innocent people being brutalized by the Israelis for no reason at all. This is terrible. And so that inspires the crazy people, or people that are on the edge, people who may not have gone over that edge if it weren't for something like this. So, no, I blame it. To me, the moral responsibility in many ways is more on those who enable it than it is on the madman that carries it out.
I agree with you, Congressman King. I want you to listen to this. I call him Governor Dum Dum. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota declaring that Democrats need to be tougher on Trump. Listen to this, Congressman.
Called out on this because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Oh. The governor's being mean, and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully, to watch this bully, and to stop it. And when it's a child, you talk to them, and you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back. You push back. You make sure they know it's not there.
Congressman King, your reaction?
You know, I have a hard time even reacting. I knew Tim Walz when he was in Congress. He was considered like a likable bumpkin, a guy who was just out there. Nobody paid him much attention. You said hello to him. We go, hey, Sarge, how you doing? Now to see him out there with wearing a new suit and get his hair combed and trying to sound like he knows what he's talking about. He had his moment in the sun because Kamala Harris was desperate to put a white guy on the ticket that was not Jewish. And that's the only reason Walz got it. It should have been Shapiro.
Yep.
Should have been the vice presidential candidate. They feel Walz couldn't do any harm. Maybe he's right, because she was so bad, it was hard to do any more harm to her. But seriously, he was a terrible candidate. He has nothing there. He really accomplished almost nothing in Congress. He just went along, which is fine. Then he became governor of Minnesota, and he's the one who basically wouldn't let the police, the National Guard, respond to the George Floyd riots. And he's just, to me, he's inept. And now he's trying to keep his name. You know what it is? The danger thing, probably of all the bad things Kamala Harris did, is somehow letting this guy think he's a national figure. And now that he's out there, he can't let go. So we have to listen to him. But no, I look at him. In fact, when he got the nomination, I think he's not a bad guy. You know, then the more he went on in the campaign, the stuff he was saying, and now after the campaign, I mean, who cares what Tim Walz has to say? I mean, God, he has no record. He has nothing. And half the time he doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, J.D. Vance demolished him in the debate that time.
He sure did. He sure did. Hey, Congressman, I need you to react to one other thing, and as it relates to the race for mayor. So stand by for a second.
And now, with decades of experience covering elections, here's Dominic Carter's Daily Briefing on the New York City mayor's race.
And we are chatting live with former Congressman Peter King. We're getting back to your telephone calls in just a second. Congressman, I want you to listen to this. In the race for mayor of New York City, we're 3.5 weeks away from the Democratic primary, give or take. The gloves are off. Listen to Mayor Eric Adams criticizing the Democratic frontrunner, Andrew Cuomo.
Governor Hochul helped fix the bail reform. Governor Hochul helped fix the mental health crises. Governor Hochul helped fix his cannabis law. Governor Hochul helped fix the criminal justice problems that we were facing. Governor Hochul modified the congestion pricing situation that he put in law. Governor Hochul dealt with the cannabis problem. And so I'm just really baffled about this. Which Cuomo are we dealing with? These were all of his initiatives. And so now he's saying the initiatives that I did, I'm going to fix. I'm going to, what he did with Tier 6 and employees, I had to fix that. What he did with allowing cannabis shops, he said we stood by and allowed cannabis shops to open up. That was your law. We went up to Albany to fix that. What we're doing with these recidivisms, that was his bail reform law. And so, I don't know. I'm really not quite understanding what he's saying. He really believes that people don't know his history. And to say now, I made a mistake. I shouldn't step down. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have Tier 6. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have stopped Bill de Blasio from raising the minimum wage. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I'm going to be all over the country. This stuff is just, this is like hilarious, Yeah, you guys would never let me get away with this. You guys would have never let me get away with this.
So, Congressman King, the gloves are off. You just heard Mayor Adams going after Cuomo, claiming that Governor Hochul and Adams have had to clean up Cuomo's mess. Your reaction?
Well, Hochul didn't really clean it up. She made it less worse, if I can use that term. But no, Andrew Cuomo is trying to rewrite history. I hear him talk about bail reform, and then he says that there were things in there that he didn't agree with, but the legislature stuck them in. anyone, and you more than anyone who follows politics in New York State, knows that the legislature couldn't have done anything when he was the governor on his legislation unless he approved every semicolon, comma, and period that was there. He was responsible for that. If it had worked, he'd be taking all the credit. Now, on all those issues, he was on the wrong side, and rather than acknowledge he was wrong, he's trying to somehow rewrite history. He's going to be the one who's going to undo all these terrible pieces of legislation and not telling anyone that it was his legislation that did it. Now, I don't think, Governor Hochul was doing such a great job, and I thought that Cuomo, his first couple of terms in office, actually was a fairly effective governor. I wouldn't have agreed with him all the time, but he was effective and didn't do any harm. His last term, the last several years in Albany as governor were terrible. He went so far to the left, did everything he could to appease them. And he and I had some real disputes during the riots in 2020, where it was a night that some cop got hit in the face with a brick. Molotov cocktails were being thrown at police vehicles. And he's saying he was proud to stand with the demonstrators. I mean, the fact is now, of course, he'd be denouncing all that. And he says how terrible it was to talk about defunding the police. I didn't hear him say a word against that when he was there. He was one of the leading advocates of all these demonstrations and protests that were going on, and not a word in defense of the cops then. Now, of course, he's Mr. Cop.
So, Congressman King, I only have a minute left, and folks, we're going back to your telephone calls in just a few minutes. You did a writing, and I saw it, and as it relates to Ukraine and Russia, you believe that Zelensky still has some cards left to play. True?
Yes, I do. What he managed to have, that attack, which knocked out a large percentage of the Russian Air Force, including their long-range bombers, which would have been a threat against the United States. And he did it with tremendous intelligence. I mean, the drones that were used, done really, in many ways, right under the eyes of the Russians. In many ways, it was one of the most effective attacks probably of the last 50 or 60 years. I've heard military experts say this will be studied by the strategists. Now, that doesn't mean Ukraine is going to win the war. What it does mean is that Russia is not going to have this easy victory they thought they were going to have. So to that extent, you said Russia's losing the war, in that they have lost so many men. They've lost tens and tens of thousands more than Ukraine has. Ukraine has shown there's still fire in them. I guess in the end, Russia could destroy them if they want to kill every last Ukrainian. But it shows that Russia is not the power that they pretend to be, and we can reward their aggression. Listen, I support President Trump trying to bring about a peace, but Putin is going to have to do something. He can't just say yes and not do it. I mean, Zelensky's agreed to a ceasefire. Putin hasn't. Putin instead was launching these attacks into the cities, into orphanages, killing people. So, no, I think we should support what Zelensky did here and use that as a way to bring about a lasting peace, which would mean no further aggression. If Russia has to keep some of the territory, fine, but it has to be then barriers put up, have to be a peace force or something in place so that Russia can't do this again.
Congressman King, it's always great to chat with you. Thank you for being a great sport and staying a few minutes extra. Look forward to chatting with you again very soon.
Oh, always my pleasure, Tommy. You are the man. Thank you.
You're the man. Thank you very much, former Congressman Peter King. Time for a break. When we come back, your telephone calls.
And now, it's time for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Final Thoughts.
And the Tunnel to Towers Foundation final thoughts of the day belong to you, so we can get to more of your calls. I'm looking at my Twitter, at my X, at Dominic TV, at Dominic TV. Jody Fendrick says, Dominic TV, will BLM help the family that had that awful, evil babysitter? Now, Jody, you know the answer to that question. Hell no. Absolutely not. They need to buy 2 more mansions. David Hunn says, Dominic, why is it that the city has to get sued so taxpayers have to eat the crime because Lakeisha had quiche for brains? David, you know what time it is. You know what, but you're right. You're right with your point. And let's see here. Debbie, our friend Debbie Lebedo, Staten Island. Debbie says when Governor Cuomo was in office, he not only killed the elderly, but with the bail reform law, he let murderers out and people were killed by repeat offenders. Let's go to Judy, line 2 in Manhattan. Judy, what's on your mind?
Hi, Dominic. I just wanted to relate to that 24-year-old girl because I grew up in a time when we were beaten with iron cord. And I grew up doing the same to my children, but not as severe as I was. But it's something that's cultural, and it's a cycle. And I had to come to the realization, because remember back then they didn't call it child abuse, and we didn't have child abuse laws. So you tend to do what's done to you because you think that's the way to do things.
Okay, Judy, I'm not saying I buy it, but I understand what you're saying. It's one thing with your own children, even though that's against the law now. This lady is not, those kids are not hers. She's a babysitter. So we can't, there's no way we can justify this. None. And that's why she's going to be arrested very soon. Go ahead, Judy.
Justifying it. I'm just trying to bring some understanding. I'm not justifying it, right?
There is no understanding when it's somebody else's children. Period. I mean, Judy, I'm listening to you, and I can tell you're emotional about the issue, and I respect you. But there's no justification. She wouldn't do that in front of the mom, would she?
I'm not justifying. I'm just saying there needs to be more education, right? There needs to be tools to help people parent or take care of children.
Well, we don't even know if this lady's a parent. She's 24 years old. I hear you, Judy, but there's no excuses in this situation. There's no justification. You can't tell me this happens in the black community, so it's okay. No. I mean, we do understand that, right, Judy?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right, Judy, thank you for the call. Always great chatting with you. And I respect what you're saying, Judy, because Judy's trying to explain a very difficult situation in certain communities where this happens. But you don't do this with somebody else's children. And in 2025, you don't do it with your own because you're going to jail. Johnny, line 4, New Jersey. What's on your mind, Johnny? You got 20 seconds. I'm sorry.
Dominic, I'm going to send a bill for my data usage for 43 minutes on hold to WABC. That's first of all. Secondly, as far
I'm
as
sorry
Cuomo
about
goes,
that. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, Johnny. Quickly.
As far as Cuomo goes, there's only two ways he could have been taken out of office: impeachment or a recall. And both of those ways wouldn't have happened in New York.
Right. I got it. Folks, all it takes is $11 a month. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org.